We are currently in the midst of an LPS comeback, guys. This is serious.
No thanks, baby. I ate yesterday.
What? Brooke, you have to eat every day.
Shut up.
Hey, hi, hello. If you haven't heard the news, Hasbro has started releasing Gen 7 pets, which come in the same mold as the old LPS, like we've been begging them to do for the past 15 years. They finally decided to capitalize on our childhood dreams, just as LPS are now starting to sell at upwards of $60 a piece. Guys, we're not okay. So what better to celebrate than to reimagine LPS as humans? So today I'm going to be redesigning my favorite childhood LPS as humans. Let's get into it. Our first victim is going to be Dachshund number 932, which my sister and I named Crystal when we were kids. First, I start by breaking down the main features of the character, from their mold, facial features, color, perceived vibes, and a little bit of childhood nostalgia, aka the personality I gave her in my child self story. Dachshunds have a shorter mold compared to other LPS, but a noticeably longer torso. They have a wide-set face and upturned eyes, so I was looking towards references like Holly Bailey and Ryan Destiny for facial features. For a long time, I was debating what I wanted to do with her long ears, which are super emphasized on her mold. I knew I wanted something with the middle part, so I was shifting between just her hair down being curly or long braids like these images, or even something in between like boho knotless braids or knotless box braids with curls. Ultimately, I decided a chunky box braid look would suit her a little bit better, and the only thing that convinced me of this was the fact that I saw a picture of a real dachshund and how floppy its ears were, and the idea that her hair had to be like versatile and flopping over to the other side sold me. Maybe I'll draw her again sometime and experiment a little bit, but for now we're keeping it like this. She also has the star sparkle stamp on her eye, which, if you don't know, categorizes her personality as the sassiest pet. So if the creators are classifying her as the sassiest, you know, we're looking at a diva here. And I'm taking that alone and inserting it into literally everything: facial expression, pose, fashion sense, etc. Lastly, color-wise, I did make a tiny mistake in that the reference photo I got of the LPS is a bit darker than what it actually looks like. But just think of it as evening out all the whitewashing other artists are doing, okay? I'm balancing the art stratosphere. So, since her color palette is pretty simple, just brown all around with little to no designs, I'm keeping her style very simple too. Most of the detail is really in her eyes with her liner and visible eyelashes, so I thought maybe she was more of like an accessory and makeup kind of girl than a clothing girl. Like, it's the accessories that make the look. Finally, to impart on some childhood lore, Crystal was obviously the popular girl in the story. Okay, I know, Dachshund as the main character, what's new? Okay, I'm admitting to being even more basic by saying I had the infamous Sage Bond in my collection as a kid, so he obviously became the popular main male love interest too. Specifically, dating Krista. Yeah, I know, Dachshund and Collie, what's new? I also tried to draw them with the intention of them being in their original stories, which is like the four of them dating each other. Well, not dating each other, more, not like polyamorous relationship. I meant like Crystal dating hotshot number 1, and the other two also in their own little romance plot. So it was imperative that I draw them with their relationship dynamics in mind. No, I did not draw any couple drawings, I ran out of time, but I will show you some references I gathered in the next section. This concludes the Crystal redesign. I love the portrait, but I think the full body needed just a little bit more time to marinate, fix some things up, and strengthen some design elements. I wish I pushed the accessories a bit further. Clothing and accessories are still not one of my strong suits, but we learn and we grow. Up next, we have Sage Bond. I mean, Connor, because we named him Connor. Yeah, we were not that creative with names as a kid. This is Collie number 58, which, if you clicked on this video, you must know the significance of this singular character. LPS Popular absolutely obliterated my child brain chemistry. Rewatching it recently, and I literally cannot believe I was watching that at the ripe age of 9. Also recently checked out SOCIALSᯣ᭩𝐭's Instagram. She literally has a whole separate business, and you still have people commenting on her post from 5 years ago begging her to come back to finish the series. That is a crazy amount of reach you have to have as a creator. So I tried my very best to separate what I thought this LPS would look like separate from his plot on LPS Popular. Mold-wise, he has what I'd call an average to slightly above average mold, height and proportion-wise. Contrasting completely with the last redesign, Connor has a super detailed body and design but very bare eyes. He's got no eye stamp and no pretty lashes. but he does have a very detailed silhouette with layered fur on his mold's body and legs. He got fur jutting out from his face and his ears fold forward too. So that being said, I wanted to give him a heavy layered fashion style, extending that also to his hair with a layered fluffy look. I thought shorter layered hair would be better, kind of tracing the proportions of the dark brown on the mold's head. I also attempted to keep that curvy M shape on his forehead by swooping his hair to mimic that, but I'm not sure how successful I was. I also decided to add dyed platinum blonde tips to his hair to mimic that subtle gradient peeking from the bottom of his head. He has a color theme of darkest at the top to lightest on the bottom for both his head and his body, so I'm also trying to work with that in his clothing. Don't ask me why I stuck with the light blue pants instead of khakis for so long. Okay, I was convinced the khakis would look weird for some reason, but the blue? Hello? Who? Lastly, I decided to give Sage Bond a little cameo on his graphic tee. It's only fair, okay? Also, rewatching LP As Popular, I noticed that his name, Sage Bond, is literally a reference to James Bond, and I might be stupid on this, but they did it on purpose. There's a scene where Sage makes a joke about it too, and I just did not catch that reference when I was a kid, and I had to share it with y'all because I only now just realized. Anyways, I don't remember him having much of a distinct personality as a kid, mostly because he was really just the popular guy who was the love interest to the much more important female leads, okay? And here are the promised couple references to give you an idea of what I imagine their dynamic to be like. And that about wraps it up. Again, super happy with the portrait. The full bodies are getting better, but still I think I could have let it marinate a little while longer. Next, we have my girl, my favorite, and one of the first littlest pet shops I ever owned. We have Lucy, Collie number 1542. Since she's the same mold as Connor, I'm repeating a lot of those same design features, but putting a twist on it. Since Connor had a lot of gradients and is of an older mold before they started glossing the eyes, I thought he had more like a carefree or less put together look. Honestly, I'm just basing that on vibes. Whereas Lucy has the gloss and a mix of ombre and hard cut colors, and visually, at least to me, looks a little bit more put together. Not that either is a bad thing, they're both beautiful, okay? But especially with that little eyeliner, I don't know. So with that, I gave her the same layered clothing element, but with a little more fashion forward style kind of way. She has these triangle motifs in her fur that I wanted to mess around with in her clothing. I do kind of wish in retrospect that I pushed it a bit more. I just didn't want it to look super out of place sitting next to the other characters, so I toned it down quite a bit. But something with those frilly triangles would have been so cute. Her face fur pattern insinuated that she would have had long layered hair, but that white part in the center kind of reminded me of curtain bangs, so I ran with that. In the end, I decided to put her in a half up, half down pigtails because they kind of looked like little ears, and I don't know, the silhouette was giving, so I wanted her makeup to be a bit simpler but still visible. You can tell she's wearing a slab of eyeliner, but it's not as extravagant as Crystal's. Since she's the same mold and in turn the same height as Connor, I thought I'd stick with that by making her a tall girly. Color palette wise, we're keeping it monochromatic with the reds and pinks, focusing on the color placement more than anything. I tried to emulate parts of her mold that were blended together versus blunt colors, so for instance, since the front paws are blended, I gave her a sheer arm slip, and since the back paws are blunt, the color language for legs are blunt from the white boots to pinkish skin. Small details, I find it so funny that these LPS are technically one of my first ever OCs and my introduction to storytelling. Me and my sister were mini showrunners directing our own little drama series, and between me and you, my sister and I actually started an LPS YouTube channel back in the day. It's not up anymore, so don't go looking, but anyways, I always tried to force my sister to let Lucy and Connor date so Crystal and the next character could date, but she would never let the Sage wannabe go, man. Memories. It's okay though, because I would make Lucy and the next man you're about to see date and be the best couple of the high school in the story of Spice, so but now I actually do love them. So here's the final result of Lucy. She is probably my favorite of these redraws for no reason other than good quality art and my own favoritism. Last but not least, we have a Greyhound number 319, or what shall be named Jason. I know these names low-key suck, okay? Again, we have another very simple character to even it out. He's great all around color-wise, but his mold is really what makes him unique compared to other characters. In my opinion, he has one of the most unique molds Waltz, especially out of the dog characters. For facial features, he has these big downturned eyes, but he also has this bump right above his eyes, which gives me the impression of having hooded eyelids, which I didn't realize would be a combo that was so hard to find references of, but we persist. I did struggle with the shading quite a bit because of this. I just couldn't figure out how to shade the eyes in a way to emphasize the brows protruding, but also make the eyes big, but also like how that looks in relation to the nose, specifically like the nose bridge. But I hope I did okay in that. I also decided to further emphasize those big eyes, and that his mold has this super tiny snout, that I would make the lower half of his face smaller and kind of tone inwards. I did this by giving him hollow cheekbones, having horizontally narrow lips, and a small jaw. I hope that comes across, but I do think I should have pushed that like a little bit more. Maybe made the nose more narrow too, or maybe more stumpy instead. I don't know. Maybe I should really start sketching out some variations before getting right into it. Lesson learned. But also, this reference image is also a little bit off compared to the original LPS, whereas the original is very much on the cooler side, like a dark gray instead of a dark brown. So I kept the dark brown for the skin. And to make up for it, I added the dark gray as the base for all of his clothing and made it a little monochromatic moment. But I did make those small gradients on his feet appear in his shoes. Little details. Lastly, for hair, I pretty much knew immediately that I wanted to give him some close to the scalp hairstyle, since his head is just like a pretty flat round surface and the ears are just cute small ones. I first thought some cornrows would be cute. I opted for cornrows with the sides faded. I really wanted to do a cool design, but I was stuck between choosing to show off the unique facial features or the cool hairstyle, and I chose the face card. I'm sorry guys. I tried to show the braids off in the full body, but it's so far away and dark you can't even see all the details, sadly, but I hope you see the vision. Personality wise, he was the nonchalant, clueless guy, but really sweet. I remember making him wait by Lucy's locker and bring her gifts to make them seem like the best couple. And again, here are the totally not necessary couple vibes inspiration pics I have of Lucy and Jason, because I can. And here's Jason's final design. Like I said, I wish I pushed like the facial features a little bit more, but I think when they're all next to each other, they actually make a really unique crew. I feel like a lot of the times I'm scared of having same face syndrome, where like all my characters have the same face and kind of look the same. But like when I really look at it, it really is just a fear of mine, because I think all their faces look pretty distinct and not that similar. I hope. Please let me know, please. Give me validation.
Anyways, that pretty much concludes this week's video. Let me know in the comments down below which design choices you liked and what you would have done differently in your designs. I always like to see how other people perceive things and like what they would have done, how they view these characters. And thanks for watching this week's video. I have a preparation for R5 video planned next, where I'm going to be doing a bunch of OC prompts to get started. So subscribe if you're not subscribed and stay tuned for what's to come.